we will be looking at problems 3.6 and 3.9 on pages 125 and 129 respectively. These two problems are closely related. The endangered manatee. Manatees are large, gentle sea creatures that live along the Florida coast. Manatees are killed and injured by power boats. Here are the data. Part A says we want to examine the relationship between number of power boats and number of manatees killed by boats, which is the explanatory variable. 3.6a. We've been introduced to these two terms, explanatory and response. The way I remember this is explanatory EX. It's going to be the X variable. Alright. The response is going to be the Y variable. Well, when you're considering the X variable, much like in algebra, we think of it as being the independent, sort of the cause. It's not necessarily the cause. There may in fact be no cause or effect relationship, but we're considering which one we want to use to predict the other one. In this case, it makes sense to consider the power boats registered as the explanatory. We're going to take the number of power boats registered and then predict the response the manatees killed. So the explanatory variable will be power boat registrations. And that is measured in thousands. So the first entry that says 447 in 1997 is 447,000. That's a lot of power boats registered in Florida in 1997. The response is going to be poor little dead manatees. Manatees killed. And one would assume that is individual manatees. Dead manatee. All right. So that is A part. Part B. Make a scatter plot of these data. Be sure to label the axes with variable names, not just X and Y. What does the scatter plot show about the relationship between these variables? Alright, pause the video at this time and enter powerboat registrations in list 1 and manatees killed in list 2. Okay, so at this time, in Stat, Edit, and List 1, you should have the list of power boats registered. In List 2, we have manatees killed. So this first pairing, 447, 12, that is 1997. 447,000 power boats were registered, and 13 manatees were killed. Now we're going to make a scatter plot. In order to do that, you simply hit second Y equals. Hit enter for stat plot on. Make sure this is on. In type, we have 6 different selections. The default is scatter plot. Once you have this, you hit zoom 9. That's the default zoom. And here you can see the scatter plot. So at this time, we're going to roughly sketch this relationship. X-axis, Y-axis. The X-axis, power boats registered. This is measured in thousands. And the Y-axis, manatees killed. All right. I'm giving a rough sketch of our scatter plot. Okay. We could put some numbers down here to give a slightly more accurate representation. But right now, all we're interested in is the general pattern that is formed by our points. The question in B part, after saying make the scatter plot, says, what does the scatter plot show about the relationship between these variables? All right. From our notes, when we describe a scatter plot, we will employ this acronym, DOFS. D stands for direction. We have two main directions. It's going to be positive or negative. O stands for outlier. And here we're going to use what I call the eyeball test. Unlike with our one variable data where we have the 1.5 IQR rule, here we're simply going to say this observation appears to be an outlier. F is for form, and our form is going to be one of two things, linear or nonlinear. S stands for strength. We are going to call it weak, moderate, or strong. Okay, so if we can get it done in one sentence, let us. I will describe this scatter plot as being positive. That is, as the number of power boats registered increases, the number of manatees killed decreases. There appears to be no obvious outliers. All of these points lie along our general form. The form is most certainly linear. While they don't lie exactly on a straight line, you can see that a line is the general form of the data. And strength, well, we will see more scatter plots later on, so we have a better idea about the strength. But this is a pretty strong relationship. These points are fairly tight as we move to the right and up. So, I will say, the scatter plot shows a linear, positive, strong relationship. In this case, as the number of power boats registered increases, the number of manatees killed increases. All right, turning to 3.9, you will see that we have answered most of those questions as well. A says, describe the direction of the relationship. Are the variables positively or negatively related? We have done that. Describe the form of the relationship. Is it linear? We have done that. C part says describe the strength of the relationship. We have done that as well.